Baruchim Aboyim B'Shem Yegin Shir. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Smith Shlita on the topic of the summer and Hilchos Shabbos. Whoever would like to have the sponsoring a shir, call Yegin Shir Terra 718-851-8651.
Someone dropped an item, I think it was a key or maybe it was a ring, into grass, and he wanted to pick it up, and he realized that to pick up an item, you're going to move the grass. So it started a whole tumult. Is grass muktzeh? And some said, even if it is muktzeh, you're not moving the grass, you're just moving it a little bit. Is that muktzeh? And this negeya, people go in the backyard in the city, in the mountains, on the lawn. Is grass muktzeh? Can someone smell a growing flower, whether it's a rose bush in the backyard? In the mountains, there are growing flowers. We had an interesting shiloh. The children play tag in the mountains. And the best base is a tree. Can you use a tree as base to touch base? Is a tree muktzeh? Is rain muktzeh? You're on the outside, there's a little water on the table. You want to wash your hands, you just touched your shoe. Take a little rainwater. Part 2 is pets, animals. Today, many camps, many bungalow colonies have these petting zoos, these little goats running around. You're allowed to pet it on Shabbos. Goldfish, parakeet. I'll tell you, but the Dia Havayuv a few weeks ago was I daven mincha Friday early. And then it was after Shkia, I was still home, and we needed to call a guy. And Baruch Hashem, my neighbor, there's not too many goyim. I finally saw a guy, had a big, huge dog. I decided I'll ask him to come into the house. So he comes up my front steps, and then he says, "Here, hold the dog," and he runs up. Here I am standing in front of my house holding this huge dog. I have to marry off children still. So I just moved myself into the house, and I kept the dog outside. But at the time I was thinking, is holding a dog a problem of Muktzeh on Shabbos? That was the Makabah Patish that I have to talk about this sugya today. But it's negeya to many other shilas. I'll tell you another fascinating shilah. Someone noticed a bird's nest on Shabbos. Can you make the mitzvah shiluach hakan on Shabbos? Don't forget, you can't come back Motzei Shabbos, ki yikarei prat lemezumah. So as our derech Bez Hashem is to try to find one yesod that I hope will give us enough information for all of these shilas plus. Consider a simple shilah. Someone is learning outdoors and it's a windy Shabbos afternoon. He wants to pick up a stone and put it on the page to hold down the page. A stone is muktzeh, but I'm using it l'tzorech gufay to help me learn. Or he comes outside to the same table and it was a windy night. There are branches or leaves on the table, Shabbos afternoon. Can he move off the leaves or the branches because it's tzarech mekaymai? Who doesn't know muktzeh is mutter l'tzarech gufa mekaymai? But this is wrong on both accounts. Because true, a kli shemalachta le'issa is mutter l'tzarech gufa mekaymai. To use a hammer to crack a nut is tzarech gufay. To move the hammer because you need place on the dining room table is mekaymai. But there's a category of muktzeh that's not a kli shemalachta le'issa. In fact, it's not a kli at all. And that's what's referred to as muktzeh machmas gufay. It is inherently useless. Branches, leaves, stones, that's eitzim v'avonim, and that's based on the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Mem Vav, where the Gemara puts it very succinctly, Hani leka toiras kli alein. Something that's a kli, there's a heter tzarech gufa mekaymai. If it's not a kli, if it's useless, eitzim, avonim, offer, pebbles, leaves, if it's not a kli, it's not kli shemalachta le'issa, and it's asa, even the tzarech gufa yum mekaymai. And we'll soon see what's the eights if you have muktzeh on your table. But this is klar in Shulchan Aruch Shin Ches Siv Zayin, muktzeh machmas gufay, tzeres avonim, even l'tzerech gufa mekayim. But it's not all lost. There is a heta which is based on a Gemara. It's in Shulchan Aruch and Shin Ches Chav Beis and on. If you meyachid it, if you designate it before Shabbos to use it, then it's mutter. L'mashal, you want to use a stone hold open and close a door for Shabbos. You take a stone before Shabbos, you put it by the door, and then you could move it to keep the door open and close the door. Why? Because you gave it what it was lacking. A stone's not a keli, but if you designate it to use it, now it is a keli. I imagine in Eretz Yisrael when sometimes they need stones to express their disapproval of other people. So to throw stones on Shabbos for Afghana, you have to be miyachid it. So probably there's a stone gemach that was miyuchid b'chol hadeyes. But basically, let's review and let's talk tachlis. Kli shemalachte le'issa, there's a tzarech gufa mekaymai. Muktzeh machmas gufay, eitzim avonim tzroiris is machmas gufay. There's no het tzarech gufa mekaymai. If you miyachid it, if you designate it before Shabbos, it's fine. So now let's apply this lemaisa. You come to your table outdoors, there's leaves, there's twigs on the table. What could you do? So this is basically Muktzeh machmas gufay. The Shulchan Aruch Siv Chaf and Siv Chaf Ches speaks about branches that are Muktzeh. But there's a simple eitzah. Don't move it biyadayim. Do tiltul min hatzad. Lift the table and the leaves or the branches will fall off. Why isn't the table a basis? And if something is a basis, even if you remove the muktzeh, you can't use the basis. The answer is two reasons. Number one, who said it was there bein hashmashas? We don't know when it fell. But even if it was there bein hashmashas, basis is only when you wanted it to be a basis. You want the table to be a base for the leichter. But here it fell on its own, so it's not a basis. So therefore, you could just lift the table, tilt the table, and the muktzeh goes off, and you could use the table gesundheit. A better mashal, we just had Shavuos not long ago. Mr. Buren Taf Tzadik Dalet, you've cut in your test, discussed this by Riches. Branches are muktzeh. But if you, let's say a person cut branches to put up on the shul, the covered Shavuos, and he forgot to put it up Erev Yom Tov. Can you put it up on Yom Tov? The answer is yes. Why aren't branches muktzeh? The answer is, since you cut it off, you miyachid it for use. Mr. Bura says, like this year, where Shabbos fell Erev Shavuos, you can't put it up on Shabbos, not because of muktzeh, because of hakan. Cut flowers, even though flowers grow, but flowers that are cut are not muktzeh. Why? That's the biggest yichud. So the person cut it off to sell it, and you bought it to have it l'noi habayis. Cut flowers are not muktzeh. Just like many Yidden Friday night use a hadassim to make a bracha, that's not muktzeh. It's not eitzim avonim. It's a very special eitzim that we miyachid. I should just mention in passing, Mr. Bura and Shin Lamed Vav Sif Yud Aleph talks about this. When you have cut flowers to cover Shabbos, make sure you fill up the water and put the flowers in the water before Shabbos. You're not allowed to put water into the vase on Shabbos. That's Terchi Yisera. Additionally, if the flowers are still blooming, they're still opening up, they're still blossoming, there might be a problem of even moving the flower pot, because the movement might stir its growth. So basically, if you have flowers that are fully grown and you put the water in before Shabbos, you could move the flower pot, because now these cut flowers are no longer muktzeh. Rather, we should mention, Sukkot is around the corner, Hadassim and Aravas, people like to keep it in water. But again, you have to make sure to put the water before Yom Tiv, then you could return it back to the water. Talking about the outdoors, just to mention two important halachas. The Ramah in Shin Lamed Vav says people should be careful not to eat outdoors on Shabbos. Outdoors, I mean when there's grass beneath you. Why? Because it's very easy to come to pour water onto the grass, and that's the issa of Zayreya. When you see at Heichen Advar Magiyam to eat outdoors, who said I'm going to pour? But you want to have a Suda, you'll wash Natil Shadayim, you might wash Negelvasa. So that's the Ramah's minig. It's not an issa. He says it's a toiv li zohar, and it's kedai not to eat outdoors when beneath you is grass. Some say, which is probably a mistaver, to take a cup of coffee, tea, and a piece of cake on your outdoor table is not a problem. The ikka is a suda. A suda has a lot of action. You might come to pour on the grass. So it's kedai, it's when possible, not to make a big kiddush on top of grass outdoors. Okay, so I'm going to say well, kiddush is not a suda, but basically the focus is we should be shoyim Shabbos. Also, after a rain, be careful not to tilt the table if there's an accumulation of rainwater, because when water goes onto grass, that's an issa of zayreya. You're not mechaven, but it's a psik reisha. That's basically the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Is rainwater muktzeh? I'll tell you a perfect shayla. Someone is learning outdoors and he touched his shoe by mistake, and there's some water on the table. Can he just use the water and wash his hands so he won't have to go into the sink, to the bungalow and wash his hands? Is rain that fell on Shabbos muktzeh? Well, rain is not a keli. Rain is not an oichel. But maybe it's noilid if it rained on Shabbos. Just like Be'ez Shenolda, even the Yom Tov is muktzeh, maybe rain is muktzeh. So this is a sugyan erevin memheyam adbeis. To make a long story short, there is an opinion that rain is mivla boli, it's absorbed in the cloud, and when it comes out, that's taka noilid and it's muktzeh. But we paskin, as they state in Beis Yosef, at the end of Simon Shin Yud, quoting Shiboli Aleket, that Maya Be'iva is mainid naidi. The water is there. The rain is there. Just when it rains, it expresses the water. I'll give you a mashal. When someone shoots a water gun, you wouldn't say he produced water. He expressed water. Clouds don't create water. They express the water. And Mishtabur and Shin Lamed Chesif Lamed quotes this, that we assume rainwater is not muktzeh on Shabbos. The Betzina Rav and Ber Moshe Aleph Chaf has a beautiful tshuva and discusses all the pratim. Mazal Yosim and Samaches also says, although they're machmirim, but it seems la halacha, we could be makel, rainwater is not muktzeh. Now, if it's very, very dirty and it's not drinkable, so it might taka be muktzeh. But basically, rainwater on Shabbos is not considered muktzeh. A fascinating question, because it's something simple, but it's not simple. Can children play tag and use a tree as the base? You have to touch the tree. So pashit, a tree is muktzeh. Why isn't a tree muktzeh? Plus, there's a specific issa of ishtamshus be'ilan. This is the Gemara in Erevin. This is Siman Shin Lamed Vav and Arachayim. You're not allowed to use a tree even if you don't at all move the tree. To lean on a tree is the issa of ishtamshus be'ilan. To put a hammock on a tree, even if it's a solid tree that doesn't move, is an issa of ishtamshus be'ilan. To build a sukkah on a tree, Zok the Mishnah, you could use the sukkah in a tree on Cholamoy, but not on Yom Tov. There's an issa d'rabbanan of ishtamshus be'ilan. No, oy bazoi. How can you touch the tree? It should be muktzeh and it should be ishtamshus. The only question is that the Shulchan Aruch says twice in Sif Gimel and again in Sif Mem Beis that you're allowed to touch muktzeh. People have this misconception, you're not allowed to touch muktzeh. It's not true. You're allowed to touch muktzeh. The issa is tiltal muktzeh, moving muktzeh. So why can't I touch the tree? The problem is, what about ishtamshus? Ishtamshus is asa, even if you don't move the tree. The Bialach at the end of Siman Shin Lamed Vav says, if you're not allowed to lean on a tree, even though it's a solid tree, you're not moving the tree. The teretz is ishtamshus, is independent issa. Using a tree is asa. So how could you touch the tree in your tag game? I think, and I hope I'm right, I think Lamais it's mutter. Because Mr. Bura says, quoting Paiskim, you're allowed to lean on a tree lightly. The issa is hishtamshus b'kol koicha. What's the deciding factor? If they would suddenly remove the tree, would the person go falling? Then he's leaning. If he's leaning lightly, that had they suddenly removed the tree, he would continue standing. That's not hishtamshus, and that's mutter. Obviously, there's a difference between hishtamshus be'ilan and hano. You're allowed to sit under a tree and enjoy the shade. That's not an issa hano, it's an issa hishtamshus. Leaning heavily is hishtamshus. Leaning lightly is not hishtamshus. So I'm thinking, if you're allowed to lean lightly on a tree, how could it be that you're not allowed to touch a tree as a base. You'll say it's a very important thing to touch the tree. I know, but it's not more important than leaning lightly. If it's not an ishtamshus, it's okay. You'll say, wait a minute, that's not true. Leaning, I'm not touching it biyadayim. But when I play tag and I touch the tree, even if it's not ishtamshus, why is it asal muktzeh? The answer is, we just said twice, Siv Gimel and Siv Mem Beis, the Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to touch muktzeh. So it comes out, at least to me, that touching a tree in a game is not asal muktzeh because it's only negiah. It's not asal shtamshus because it's like smicha ba'oifen kal. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Next question, a very important question. Is grass muktzeh? You dropped an item, and when you pick it up, you're moving grass. Or you sit down on the grass, and you touch the grass and move the grass slightly. Is grass muktzeh? So let's think objectively. Grass is not eitzim, oichel, it's not a keli. Isn't grass a form of eitzim v'avonim? Plus, if it's growing, maybe it's like ishtamshus, the elon that's awesome. But what's extremely noigeya, there's a mechaba in Shin Yud Beis Sivav, which is based on kamat of a Ferish Rashi, the Ferish Gemara, and since it's important, I'm going to read the lashon. Mekanchem basavim lachim, afilu heim mechubarim. You're allowed to wipe with grass, even if they're attached, ubilvad shelo yazizim, but don't move the grass. That's what the Mechaba says based on a Rashi. Now, pardon me, but in those days they didn't have bathrooms, they didn't have the tissues. They went to the bathroom outdoors and they wiped with grass. So the Mechaba is saying you're allowed to use growing grass to wipe yourself. So I'll give you a more contemporary example. Someone was once running to Mincha in the bungalow colony, and he didn't want to wash. I guess he knew he have to wash his hands, but he was a little lazy. So it was after a big rain. He bent down, stuck his hand in the grass, moved his hands around, and came up with a lot of water. And he runs to Mincha, Ashrei Yoshev Eisechem. That's a perfect example of Mekanchem Basavim. He wipes grass. He uses grass to wipe himself. And the Mechaba says, you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. Kinuach on Shabbos in any form is mutter. The question is, why is the nasa als ein mishtamshin be'ilon? But the answer, according to most poskim, is very pashut. Why is ein mishtamshin be'ilon? Shem yala v'yidleish. When was the last time you saw a person climbing up a blade of grass? There's no problem of yala v'yidleish. We know a tree is also even a small tree. The answer is, once it has the din of a tree, there's loy plug. But grass, asavim, kanem rachim, as the Shulchan Aruch refers to it, that's not a tree, there's no issa v'shtamshus be'ilan. And that's why it seems that there's no problem of being mishtamish with grass. And the big question is, why isn't it muktzeh? And you know what the answer might be? You're right, maybe it is muktzeh. Maybe that's the pshat in the words of the Mechaba. Mekanchem basavim lachem, true. Ubilvad shelo yazizem, don't move it. Why can't I move it? There's no issa v'shtamshus. Maybe it's the regular din of muktzeh. And indeed, that's the way the Magen Avram learns this Mechaba. You're allowed to use muktzeh. You're allowed to use grass. No issa v'shtamshus, but don't move it. The problem, which the Levushei Srod and others point out, is how do you understand the logistics? How are you supposed to wipe if you don't move the grass? Tzashu rachok b'metzias, says Levushei Srod. But the Magen Avram is the Magen Avram. It's up to Pri Megadim in Shin Yud Beis Sivkat and Vav. He says, it's talking about you won't touch it directly, tiltal begufay. Person wipes it without touching it biyadayim. That's what the Mechaba is talking about. The Pri Megadim later in Shin Amud Vav Dal says, how could you walk on grass? Are you touching grass? That's tiltal begufay and that's zichamut. But this is the shita of the Magen Avram, that grass is muktzeh. The reason why you're allowed to be mechaneach is it's tiltal begufa, you're not using your hands. However, of course, it's very hard to understand this. And Taka the Tois Shabbos, one of the earliest Achrayim, Devar of Tmuim, he says, what's the problem? It's not an Elon, and muktzeh, but the Mechabes, but it doesn't make sense. How could it's hard to understand that you can't touch it b'yadayin, but more so, Zaktai Shabbos, why is it muktzeh? What's wrong with grass? If you're allowed to use it, so why can't you move it? Trees you're not allowed to use, you're not allowed to move. But if you're allowed to use grass, so why can't you move it? What does the Mechaber mean, lo yazizem? It means don't move it from its place, don't uproot it. If you uproot it, that's toilish. On Shabbos, toilish is awesome. Why is it better than eitzim vavonim? The answer probably is since you could use it for kinuach, it's not muktzeh. You'll ask, but we find in the Gemara that they could use stones for kinuach. It's the beginning of Shin Yud Beis. The answer is that's vaday only b'shas atchak. It's not even safe. But grass was typically used. And indeed, according to the Tosfos Shabbos, growing grass is not muktzeh. And that's the way the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot in your test, the HaShulchan Paskin, that grass is not muktzeh on Shabbos. You're allowed to move grass and use grass. Lo yaziza means don't uproot it, al toilish. The question, of course, on this pshat is, so if the pshat lo yazizim is don't tear it out, pshita, the answer I think could be pashit. You know, the Ramon, the Shin Aleph Sif Mem Vav, says you're not allowed to walk in a place that you close to a river where you might fall into the river because you might get your clothing wet and end up making schita. Now, this is a very far chashash. You'll fall in and make schita. The answer is, Chazal wanted us to be Shomer Shabbos. A Shomer does a very good job. Stay away from trouble. Now think about this. Isn't it logical to say that you can't wipe with grass because you might pull out a grass or two? And the answer is you're right. That's logical. But if he needs it, Rabbi is to be mekaneach, Chazal said, do it and be careful. That's the chiddush lo yazizim. Really, we should say it's awesome. But do it carefully. The Magen Avram obviously held that the simple pshat in lo yazizim is don't move it. Therefore, Magen Avram held it's muktzeh. What's the machlokes taliyin? Magen Avram held that grass is like eitzim vavonim. It's roi, so is stones, but it's not miyuchid lekach, and therefore it's muktzeh. Tosfos Shabbos held that grass is, you could use it for kinuach, and it's not muktzeh. I believe there's another pshat, and I think this is important. The Mechaber in Siv Dalet says, oichlin are never muktzeh. Even to move it shalei l'tzorach, because oichlin are never muktzeh. In Siv Chav Tes, the Mechaber says, meichel behema is also not muktzeh. Pet food is not muktzeh. Why? It's oimid lebehem. But the biggest chiddush is in the Ramah and Siv Chav Tes. Let's say someone ate a Friday night Suda and he did a good job. He ate the chicken, mamish to the bones. There's not a shred of chicken left on the bones. Are those chicken bones muktzeh? L'chayra, it's not usable. It's eitzim vavonim. This is atzamos. But Zok the Ramah, even though bones are muktzeh if there's no food on it, but Zok the Ramah, in a place that's ru'uyim leklavim, where there are dogs in the vicinity, and you could feed the dogs those bones are not muktzeh. What do we see? The fact that it's royu leklavim is enough to make it not muktzeh. Now, let's think. Grass is not dog food, but I would say correctly, grass is cow food. Pasuk in the Torah, "Nasati esev v'sadcha levamtecha." The Mechaber in Shin Chav Daled Yud Gimel Paskins, you're allowed to let your cows graze on grass on Shabbos, even though it's a malacha, and there's an issa din of shvisas behemtoi, but laman yanuach. So grass is cow food on Shabbos, Yom Tov, and weekdays. I think that's the pshat in the Tais Shabbos and those that are mekel. First of all, it's royal kinuach, and second of all, it's a meichel behema. Meichel behema we find in Shulchan Aruch is not muktzeh. Now I do know that pet food is certainly more mutter because it's miyuchid. You bought it, you have it. Grass is growing. But I've seen the Tais Shabbos held that's enough of a svara to say grass is no longer muktzeh. Now the Magen Avram held if you take the grass, if you buy pet food or make pet food, I understand. But there's a lot of grass growing in the world. Is it logical to say that grass across the board is not muktzeh because you give it to an animal? Probably that's the machlokes if grass is muktzeh or not. Again, there are two svaras, the kinuach and it's royal meichel behem. The big question is in Tafshin Ayin Ches, are any of these svaras applicable? No one uses grass like kinuach, that's certain. And living in the city, there are no cows. And the Ramah that permits moving bones, it has to be a place that shchichi klavim. There are no cows in New York City. Am I saying to change the halacha chas v'shalom? But the metzias change, halacha changes. I'll give you an example. Midin HaGemara and a Shulchan Aruch, basa chai, raw meat, is not muktzeh. Because it's right to eat raw. But the Heintige Poskim say that today we don't eat raw meat. So therefore it's muktzeh. So why can we say a place that there are cows, shchichi, cows, okay. So it's royal for cows. But today, in our cities, there's a lot of grass growing, but there are no cows. And Rabbi Shlomo Zalman in Shalma Yehuda, Yud Gimel Dalet, Rabbi Yashiv, and Shvos Yitzchak Zayim Beis, both say this. Even like the Tais V'Shabbos, Mishnah Baruch HaShulchan, that grass bisman hazeh is not muktzeh, that's if the svara applies. But if there's no opportunity of cows grazing on that grass, l'mashal in your backyard, it will be muktzeh, l'chol hadayis. Now, I want to add, which I think is pashut, if you have grass that's miyuchad liyeshiva, where you sit on it in the backyard, the children play, the grandchildren play in it, or in a bungalow colony, maybe that alone is mutter l'chol hadayis. Because people sit and people play on it and they touch it. So it's an automatic yichud. No one has to say l'shem yichud kudsha b'richu. It's a place that people sit every day and every Shabbos. So a place that's miyuchid for sitting, whether it's a bungalow or a camp lawn or a backyard of a house, then it would not be muktzeh. What about the issa v'shtamshus? That we just said, there's no issa v'shtamshus by grass. So oy bazoy, getting back to our shaila, an item, a ring or a key fell into grass, and by picking it up, you are definitely moving the grass. Is that mutter? The answer is, it depends. If it's a place that is not miyuchad liyeshiva, no one sits there, l'mashal, a front yard, and it says, keep off the grass. So if keep off the grass, you don't sit in the grass. But something, that type of grass would be muktzeh. If a ring, a key fell into a lawn grass that people sit and people touch it, then it's not muktzeh. If it's not muktzeh, you're allowed to move it. Now, I did say grass that's never used is muktzeh. You'll say, but one second, when I pick up my ring, I'm not moving the grass, taking it away. I'm moving it back and forth. Who said that's considered tiltul muktzeh? So that's an old yisoid that moving muktzeh does not mean moving it from its place. Moving it in its place is also muktzeh. The Gemara says you're allowed to close the eye of a mace, even though it's muktzeh, cover a mace. When you close the eye, you don't move the person. The answer is moving the eyelid is movement, even though the person remains. Moving grass in its place is enough tiltul muktzeh. And Vakeret, the Magen Avram says, there's an issa of muktzeh by grass. You're not moving it to a different place. That's tiltul. So therefore, we could say, to sit on grass, I should mention, even if the grass is muktzeh, even in a front yard, keep off the grass, sitting on the grass is muktzeh. Why? You're moving the grass, that's tiltal begufa. You're not touching the grass. Okay, if it says keep off the grass, you shouldn't sit down on the grass. But as far as muktzeh, I think it's fine. But when you lower yourself to sit on the grass and you touch the grass, that's the problem. When the grass is something that is used, yochad liyeshiva, or grass in a place that there are cows, so it's roi for Michael Behema, you could sit down and even touch the grass. I should mention, when you sit down with your hands and touch the ground, if there are pebbles or dirt that's moved, that's taka muktzeh. That's afar or avonim, and I'm not sure if there's yichud on the whole earth. Maybe you touch the grass, but basically be careful not to move the other muktzeh. What needs a hezbah, the Mishnah later, in Shin Lamed Vav, Sif Katan Chav Daled, Mishnah is talking about what the Mechaber is talking about. And basically you're allowed to walk on high grass, because it's not a psik reish, you're going to detach grass. But let's say a person is walking in high grass and he's walking without barefoot, without socks or shoes. If it's a psik reisha that'll tear out grass, he's not allowed to walk there. But usually it's not a psik reisha, so you're allowed to walk in high grass. So up to Mishnah Berurah, if after you walk barefoot, you find grass in between your toes, again, he was walking barefoot, don't remove the grass, because the grass is muktzeh. Now the pella is, you, Mr. Brim, Simon Shin Yud Bey says grass is not muktzeh. So why in Shin Lamed Vav do you say grass is muktzeh? The Rav Shulchan Aruch that holds grass is muktzeh correctly says in Shin Lamed Vav that the detached grass is muktzeh. But the Mishnah Berurah, the Shita, say that grass is not muktzeh. Why does he say you can't remove the grass in between your toes? And I saw the Shmir Shabbos and Chavav Hora Ayin Hay says Dav Zet Tmuah. Because mechuba, you're allowed to move grass. And now that's cut off, it's awesome. But I think the teretz is pashit. Because if you look in Shin Chaf Hey, the Shulchan Aruch discusses that something that was mechuba and was detached on Shabbos is muktzeh. Why? You had no das to use it in its detached form. So tak, it's true. Grass that's attached, like the Mishnah Berurah, is not muktzeh. But once it got detached, now it's a panim chadash is balakan. And there was no way you thought of using it Erev Shabbos in its detached form. And this is not my chiddush. The same Tais V'Shabbos, the makar of the heta of moving grass, that it's not muktzeh, he says, doesn't ask to steer Mishnah Berurah, of course, he says, Ayin Siman Shin Chafei, something that's detached is muktzeh. That's because it got detached, that's why it's muktzeh. But grass that's attached is not muktzeh. Common question. A person sees a very enticing rose bush in someone's backyard, and he wants to smell it, and he has rishus to smell it. Is it mutter to take the rose, move it to your nose, and smell it? You see a flower growing, walking in the mountains, a nice flower growing wildly. Are you allowed to move growing flowers to smell them, or stam to look at them? So let's think. This is maybe better than grass. Because grass, we could say, it is miyuchud for cows, some of it is not. But fragrant smelling flowers, what's wrong with them? It's a very functional item. People spend a lot of money for Shabbos flowers. It could be that even the Magen Avram that holds that grass is muktzeh, because he doesn't like that svar that grass becomes Michael Behema. But fragrant flowers, what's wrong with them? Why is it muktzeh? Why is it Rissa Vishtamshus? The teretz is, when was the last time you saw a person climbing up a flower? If it's not an Elon, if it's Kanim Rakim, there's no Issa Shtamshus. And Re'ez Pella, I think this came out of a Ferish Mechaber. In Shin Lamed Vav Sif Yud, Hadas Mechuba Mutal Ariyach, but you're allowed to smell a growing Hadas. Come on, our Shaila. We spoke about flowers, that's Hadasim, but the Mechaber allows you to go over to a growing flower, an Hadas, and smell it. Why? Why not? If I buy hadassim, I'm allowed to smell it. So now that it's attached, what's the problem? Now the Mechaber says, you're not allowed to smell fruit because you might come to tear it off. But something that's the smell, you're not going to tear it off. But if you look at the Magen Avram, he does not say it's Muktzeh. Well, certainly the Taz does. But the Magen Avram seems to agree you're allowed to move the hadas to smell it. So I'm comfortable to say that a growing flower is not Muktzeh, there's no ishtamshus, and you're allowed to smell it on Shabbos. I should mention that Taz has his shita in Shin Lamed Vav, that he holds that ishtamshus is not just be'ilon, the issa ishtamshus is b'mechuba. And therefore, like the Taz, you're allowed to smell the hadas, but you can't touch it. Because there's an issa of ishtamshus and an issa of muktzah. Like the Taz, you can't move grass, because grass is muktzah. There's a ishtamshus begrass, and you can't move grass. But most poskim, and that's the sheet of the Shulchan Aruch, you're allowed that there's no issa of ishtamshus only by a tree. So like most poskim, you're allowed to move a growing hadas, a growing rose bush, grass. There's no problem of ishtamshus, there's no problem of muktzah either. Now, even growing wildly, there's no problem. You don't have to be miyachid something that's miyuchid, because something that has a good smell is miyuchid for reach. A tricky question is what people enjoy, especially during the summer, they buy a flower pot, they put in earth, or they buy it ready-made, and they have a growing plant. So a flower pot with a growing plant has two strikes against it. The plant is growing, and earth is muktzah. So you have two muktzahs. But if you think about it, it's not real. And one second, and if you say taka that the plant and the earth is muktzah, then the pot becomes a basis to muktzah, and the whole thing is one shtik muktzah. But it's much more probable to Mustafa to say that if you bought a little flower pot for noi habayis, even if it was muktzah, now you miyachid it. You like to keep it on the dining room table, you move it to the kitchen table. It's nice. So even if you hold that that earth is muktzah, which it is, but you can be miyachid earth. So by designating it, by buying it or making it, that's the greatest yichud. I'll say, wait a minute. I know you're allowed to miyachid something to use. You're allowed to miyachid stones to hold down your page. You're allowed to miyachid other muktzah to use. What use are you having out of a flower pot? You're not sitting on it. You're not being mekaneach in it. You're not feeding it to your animals. The answer is, noya bayis, even there's no direct use, is also a shimush. And what's my raya? Shvuas. We cut down branches, we hang it up. We don't sit on the branches, but it decorates the house. It's nice. It's festive. Right? Oh, I'm going to get to that. So that's why most poskim are makel, unless what's growing in the flower pot has a din of a tree. It doesn't have to be a huge tree. Once it has a din of a tree, there's loy plug. But growing plants, kanam rakim, yerakos, that would be one big yichud, and it's mutter. Of course, if there's any question of yanika from the ground, or it's nakub, then you're not allowed to move it out toilish. That's the mechab and shilam advav. We're talking about in two preconditions. There's no yanika from the ground, and it's not a tree, it's kanim rak. Achrein chava, maybe achrein hichbid, is the very big question of animals, pets, birds, goldfish on Shabbos. The children win, they come on Friday, Berchush Gadol, they won in the carnival, a cup with a goldfish, and they want to play with a gan Shabbos. Is that muktzah? Parakeet, the petting zoo in the camps and the colonies. And of course we'll talk about the cage and pet food and leash. But let's think objectively. Let's talk about an animal, a cow. Is a cow muktzah? Why not? What are you going to do with a cow on Shabbos? You know, if you shecht it, you could eat it, but Shabbos you can't do anything with it. It's not a kli, it's not a meichel. But more so, there's an issa d'rabbanan of ishtamshus b'behema. In Shin Hey, Yud Aleph, Yud Ches, I should say, the Mechaber says you're not allowed to ride on an animal, you're not allowed to use an animal, shemeyachtoich zmoira k'dei lahaniga, which is very similar to the issa of ishtamshus be'ilan. You're not allowed to go and use an Elon, Shema Yala V'yitloish. You're not allowed to use a Behema, Shema Yitloish. So now we have, regarding animals, double trouble. First of all, you're not allowed to use an animal across the board. Once you're not allowed to use it, it should be Muktzeh. It should be just like trees. Issa Shtamshus brings Issa Muktzeh. And indeed, that's the Mechaba in Shinches Siv Chavtes, based on a Beferish Gemara Zok the Taz, quoting Beis Yosef, it's a Talmud Aruch, that a Behema, Chaya, V'oivos are Muktzeh. The Taltal Behema, Chaya, V'oiv is Muktzeh. Zok the Mishtabura, quoting Achrayim, it's like Eitzim V'avonim D'loi Chazi. Now you look at a big cow, it doesn't look like Eitzim V'avonim to me, but it's the same problem. It is basically functionless. But to me what's important, the Taz brings the Marshal, which was Negeya to Yiddishkeit. Until recently, people lived with cows. Even if they didn't live with cows, they lived with chickens in the house. So the Marshal says that you're allowed to pick up a chicken on Shabbos, no problem of tzeda, because it's domesticated, and it's already nitzoid v'oimid. Frag the Taz, what do you mean you're allowed to pick up a chicken? I understand it's not tzeda. Why isn't the chicken muktzeh? Think about it, Erev Yom Kippur, chicken is useful, or so when you like kaparis. But what are you going to use a chicken on Shabbos? The Taz is saying it's not a hefgevelt. Even if there's no tzeda, why isn't chicken muktzeh? Oy bazoi, we should answer all our questions. B'chadam echta, behema chaya va'oif. A parakeet is an oif, and other animals, the petting zoo, it's all muktzeh. Ishtamshus brings the Issa Muktzeh. But let me say a simple suggestion. Avada, a cow from the Goyish neighbor in the colony, that's Muktzeh. Let's say the owner of the colony goes before the summer and buys a few little goats. If you know, those goats are the most used, or better yet, the most abused animals around. Everybody touches them and pets them. Why isn't having a pet, whether it's a petting zoo or a parakeet, or the children collect salamanders, why isn't all of those muktzah that you're miyachid? You could be miyachid stones. Why can't miyachid a goat to be part of your petting zoo? In other words, the difference is animals is muktzah and pets are not muktzah. Who gives you the right to be matir asurim? I'm not being matir asurim. I'm being miyachid muktzah. It works all across the board. So loimi boy, if I play with the pet, so I'm using it directly. Even if I have a goldfish, I put it in the corner. I look at it. Why is it different than branch yikat for shvuos? And that's the shita of Rabbi Yosef quoted in Tosfos Shabbos Daf Memei Amud Beis. Tosfos says, "Efroya chai, a live bird, is not muktzah. The chazi l'shasek baitina kishabaycha. You could use it to entertain a child when he's crying. This sounds like a parakeet. But the problem is Tosfos himself says this is not true. Tosfos brings two rayas from Gemara that Baalei Chayim are muktzah, and therefore Tosfos it has to be that animals and birds are muktzah like Greigeris et Smukim. Tosfos gives it a muktzah, most intense muktzah Greigeris et Smukim. It's not clear what Tosfos means. But there's a different rishon that seems to also be mekel. Arach or Zerua, the end of Siman Pei Aleph, Oifos hamitzaftzefim b'koil no'a b'kaluvin. This is mamish parakeets that they sing or talk, and people are nenem b'koilam are not muktzah. Why? It's like something that you enjoy, l'koil ulamara, that there's no issa muktzah. There's no doubt about it that this Marach or Zeru, one of the Rishonim, hold that a parakeet is not muktzah because you miyachid it by buying it, and you want to enjoy it. Now you don't play with it, but you enjoy it. It's like we said, it's like what you hang up on the tree for shvuos, or like flowers, noya bayis. But the pella is in the next shuv of Marach or Zeru, and the end of Siman Pei Beis, he quotes a rush. And I quote the Lashon because it's important. Vala oifos, you moving birds, like malani libi lahatir. Because you can't be matir to move a balchai. He says, just like Tzroiris is Muktzeh, so too Balachai. Now listen to this. V'yesh le'esa yoyse v'balachai. Maybe pets are more Muktzeh than stones. De'ei mishtamshin v'balchai. V'lei plug rabbanan v'balechayim. It seems Zokti Rosh, Rachazua quotes the Rosh, so apparently he was Mekel in Simpei Aleph. But in the afterthought, he seemed to pass him like this Rosh, that pets are Muktzeh. Why? It's beautiful. Because since Chazal asid ein mishtamshin bebalechai, and it's a loy plug, you can't go for a ride on your pet parakeet, that's for sure. But just like Chazal asid trees, all trees, Chazal asid animals, all animals. Loy plug. It's the same loy plug like by trees. So we see our Shaila is a machloikis. Rabbeinu Yosef, Machzerua, that's Mekel, Chayra, Toisvis, and the Rosh that are Machem. Now, the question is, but why doesn't Yichud help? You could be Miyachid the ultimate Muktzeh. So the answer I just said is because the problem is not that it's not a Keli. It's very functional. But Chazal said, Ein Mishtamshin Bebehema. Yichud helps by stones that the problem is it's functionless. Yichud gives it a function. But if the Issa is like plug, then Yichud doesn't help. A person could stand in front of the tree a whole day, I'm miyachid it to use on Shabbos, for my hammock, for my sukkah, it doesn't help. The Issa v'shtamshus is even with Yichud. So we're going to get there. So therefore, Lamaisa, it seems, and I saw this in the Chut Hashani, in Amid Nun Beis, in the Megillah Seifa, Siman Nalv, the B'tzei Lachach, Mehela Amid Gimel, Megdanes Elio, Gimel Chav Ches, and I was very happy that I was Mekhavim to the Emes, that the reason why Balachayim pets are Muktzeh is not because it's lacking in a Shem Keli or Yichud. It's the Issa of Ein Mishtamshin, Bebehema, and Loi Plug. Now I saw other Pshatim, Megdanes Elio mentioned this, you can't take a Baal Chai that's living and turn it into a Keli. It's too choshev to become a Keli. Okay. Another pshat I saw, based on the Mechab and Shin Ches, Sif Memhei, Mechabel's ball is Muktzeh. Ramaz Mekel. Why is Mechabel the ball is Muktzeh? Because the playing of the ball is insignificant and doesn't count. So maybe like the Mechabel, that a ball is Muktzeh because it's insignificant, maybe pets also. But state shuvas bedava. First of all, Ramaz Mekel, that a ball is not Muktzeh. Like the Ramah, pet should be Muktzeh. And also, our children have these pets. This is 24/7. They use it to say it's insignificant. Again, I think the most mistavra yisoid why pets are Muktzeh is because Amish Tamshim bebehema, the Balechai. Again, you're not going to go for a ride on your pet goldfish, but once it has a din of a Balechai, there's a light plug. The Abiyah Oimach and Hei Chavav, the Aznidbu Chelik Ches Lamed Vav and Tes Chav Zayin, the Ber Moshe and Beis Chav Ches all emphatically say that pets are Muktzeh even if you miyachid it, because the problem is Ein Mishtamshin Bebal Chai. So to apply this more specifically, a cow on the farm, you're walking on the road within the tchum, of course, and you come upon a farm, there's a cow there. That all agree is Muktzeh. Even Rabbeinu Yosef and Merachar Zerua. Because that you aren't miyachid as your pet, that's a cow. That's the Gemara and Shulchan Aruch. A stray cat that is ownerless is also Muktzeh. Why? Because no one's miyachid it. That's mitzad echad. Also pashut, all insects, ants, insects, bugs, flies, the wide spectrum of these type of shrotzim, which is more common in the mountains, but even in the city, are also Muktzeh. No one has a pet ant or insect that's a regular Baal Chai, which is Muktzeh, unless it's very disturbing, so it might be a Rav Suri'i. The big issue is household pets. Someone has a cat, a dog, a rabbit, v'chulu, v'chulu. The children salamanders and frogs and the whole wide spectrum of pets. If someone touches a pet on Shabbos, don't give him skila. You have to realize Taisis quotes Rabbeinu Yosef that seems to be Mekel. Merachar Zerua mentions Svar Lahakul. But as I told you, most poskim seem to go with the rush and Tosfos that even yichud doesn't help. But if you hear someone that touches his pet on Shabbos, you can't say he's absolutely wrong. He's probably wrong, but not absolutely. You can't say it's 100% wrong because there is sheep that are makel. Now, what's interesting is the petting zoo in the mountains. People do it. The yodim v'lo yodim. L'chayra, that's a problem because like most poskim, yichud doesn't help. But I was thinking, maybe we could find a limud chus. If you just touch the animal without moving it, even if you hold that it's Muktzeh, but we said, the Shulchan Aruch says twice, you're allowed to touch Muktzeh. But the problem, of course, is that when you touch the animal, usually you move the hair of it. But more so, almost always when you touch the animal moves. And that we find in Shulchan Aruch. You're allowed to touch the menorah that's hanging, but if you touch it, it starts to move, it's considered tiltul muktzeh. So you have to be careful. If you could just touch the animal on a petting zoo and you don't move any part of it and it doesn't move, then you're safe. Even though ein mishtamshin b'bal chai, but this would be like touching a tree. You're allowed to touch a tree. It's not considered enough of ishtamshus. How could touching an animal be worse than touching a tree? Now, if someone has a crave to touch an animal, I move the animal, I'll tell you an eitzah. This to me was niffeldik. In Shin Beis Yud Aleph, talking about the issa of libun, people are dirty. So the Mechaber says, if someone, his hand's dirty, he could wipe it in the tail of a horse or the zanav of a parah. Freg the Tosfos Shabbos, he'd cut in Lamed Daled. What do you mean? Wipe your hands in a tail. I ein mishtamshen bebehema. Must be the Mechaber's talking about that the tail was detached. So it's cut, so it's mutter. It's up to be halacha of an art. It's very unlikely the Mechaber's talking about a detached tail. Zok to be halacha, the Issa Hishtamshus is only on the actual animal. But the tail is not enough part of the animal, and there's no Issa of Hishtamshus, T'leichashiv kegufay b'tzarech iyan. So I saw Rabbi Zalman in Shmir Shabbos, Chav Zayin Nun Vav asks, but even stadei behema is muktzeh. So how could a tail be better? So I saw the Megillah Seif and Ara 1 and Sif Manalef says, no, maybe the tail is not considered part of the animal. So it's better than stadim of a behema. Okay. The bialacha remains tzarachian, it's not pashut. But if someone really wants to move the animal, he could play with the tail. That would be no issa of mechubah. The parakeet that people have is mamish our marach or zarua. But don't forget the rush was machmir. And it seems the marach or zarua accepted the rush's psak over his own. So according to that, not only is the pet parakeet muktzeh, but the cage would also be muktzeh. Now, ma pishay, what's wrong with the cage? But the cage is a designated basis to the bird. There's a beautiful two chuvas in B'tzeil HaChochma, Chelekei, Lamed Gimel, Lamed Dalet, Barichas. But that's what comes out, that a pet parakeet is muktzeh and the cage is a basis. A very difficult question is a fish tank. Now, the simple goldfish in a cup or a little glass, that's one shaila that the children play with. Or today, the fully loaded, quote-unquote, sophisticated fish tank that has a whole city come out, everything's going on. Is that muktzeh? So, pashit, you'll say, well, goldfish are still balichai. And Rav Moshe Taka and Chelik Dalet, Hazayin, Yibi Oime, Hei Chavav, both all say that Taka fish tanks is no different than any other balichai, and it's muktzeh. So according to this, if the fish is muktzeh, the fish tank is a basis, and the water and the gravel and all the whole apparatus is one big basis for the fish. Reb Shlomo Zalman is quoted in Shmir HaShabbos in Chav Zayin, Sif Chav Zayin in the footnotes, and what he says, I'm not exactly sure what he means, but he says is that Lamaisa, something like this, that is the fish, and there's a whole Agansa Maisa, and it's meyuchid lenoi habayis, and no one moves a big fish tank. He's talking about a big fish tank. Maybe it's not even within the parameters of loy plug, And in other words, the fish, and it's a whole scheme, a whole maisa, l'loy abayis. It's not part of the issa of Baal Chai. There's no loy plug. It's the kisher abayis, and it's mutter to move, if possible, of course, a fish tank. So Rav Shlomo Zalman is Mekel or Moshe, and maybe Ayman, others are Machmir. So at least we could say by the fish tank that people have it, and it's again a big maisa. We did see Rav Shlomo Zalman is Mekel. One thing I could say comfortably, pet food in any sort, whether it's food for cows, fish, parakeets, hamsters, rabbits, is not muktzeh. How could that be? The animal is muktzeh, the food is not. That's Siv Chavtes. Siv Chavtes, the Mechaber says that pet food is not muktzeh. So even if you follow the Poskim not to move any pets, but you still have to feed your animals. According to some, before you eat your Shabbos food, you have to feed your animals, and then so the pet food is not muktzeh. You don't need a yichud, it's automatic yichud, you bought it, you made it, but the pet would be muktzeh. A shver shayla is a seeing eye dog. For us it's easy to say it's muktzeh, because al pisvar it's muktzeh. It's a Baal Chai, it's a light plug, and taka most paiskim seem to feel that a seeing eye dog is muktzeh. To use it, you could use it, but don't touch it. The Megillah Sefer in that shtickle has a chiddush, and he says the fish, goldfish, and seeing eye dogs are not muktzeh. Why? Eyes in of shemesh. He has a chap. He says you're not using it directly. The goldfish are looking at it. The dog leads you, but he leads the person, but he's not that you're using it directly. If so, it's like an indirect hishtamshus, which on Shabbos is mutter. I guess it means to say something like leaning lightly on a tree. It's not a direct hishtamshus. Once it's not an issa of hishtamshus, there's no issa of muktzeh. That's what he says. So if someone knows of a person that touches and moves his seeing eye dog, he has that svara, but I did see most paiskim are machmir. The good news is, even if we assume that a seeing eye dog is muktzeh, but based on kamara b'ferish v'chaba, the leash is not muktzeh. Now people say, why not? Why isn't the leash a basis to the dog like a fish tank and a bird cage? The answer is pashut. The cage and the tank is a basis to the fish and the bird. The leash is not a basis to the dog. It's a personal benefit to the owner, but it's not the base of the dog. So therefore, even if we assume that a dog is muktzeh, but the leash was not muktzeh, and that was my svara when I held on to the leash for dear life, of course, but I didn't touch the dog, I was not visible, and since then I didn't I married one of my children, so Baruch Hashem was gelung in the plan. But even if a dog is muktzeh, moving with the leash is not muktzeh. What is a good chinuch, the children should know this, that when they collect their most precious commodities, frogs, salamanders, etc., they should be told that's muktzeh. There is what to be saimach on, but lamaisa, this is a machlekes rishonim. Achrin chaviv, the question we began with, someone comes across and sees a bird's nest, a perfect example of shiluach hakan. Is it mutter to make shiluach hakan on Shabbos? And don't forget, if you don't do it today, you can't come back tomorrow, ki yikari prat l'mazumin. Zog tehelukach sam soif and a tshuv and siman kuf. He says, the Zohar says that what's the greatness of shiluach hakan that is so meaningful, and Kabbalah's grace is achin, because when someone sends away the bird, it's ma'oira, the shechina hakadoisha, the yalala le'ela, to cry. And when the Shekhinah cries, that's ma'oira chesed for Klal Yisrael. Of course, he says, after all this, who knows, these are dvarim ne'lomim, ein etani yadeya alma, muflamen al-sidraish, but that sort of prompts the Shekhinah Hakadosh to cry and hopefully be makarav the geula. So the Chassam Sofer, late to Zoya, the wrong time to do shiluach hakan is Shabbos. You want to make the Shekhinah cry on Shabbos? But besides that, to do it, somehow you have to grab the mother and send her away. That's tiltul muktzeh. You don't want to move muktzeh for a mitzvah. If you have a shayfa that's muktzeh, it's on a tree, you can't go up and get it. So Zok Sam Seifa, for two reasons you can't make shiluach hakan on Shabbos. So what do? Find a different one, but you can't move Muktzeh even b'makom tzoyrich. Now Rabbi says the hardest moment of the year is the time of Kosher Lai Pidaschem, is the last year before the summer. It's hard to put in words the feelings that I have for this Olam, for this continuous, awesome Sunday morning Kiddush Hashem. Let me just say a short story I heard over Shabbos. Chaim B'Sakh, when he was learning in the Mir Yeshiva, there was a problem. There was not enough place to keep the hats. I don't know the Muktzeh, but that was the problem. So he went to the hardware store, he bought a nail, he took a hammer, he didn't have a hammer, he took a stone, he knocked the nail into the wall. This is his nail for his hat. Okay. The next day he comes, and someone else's hat's there. Practice a mensch. So he waits till the fellow comes, he goes, you're not Bikairis. So the fellow says, why? He says, my nail. He says, why not Bikairis? He goes, du meinst, das kommt von sich allein? You think a nail just all of a sudden ends up in the wall? The Tifa might, Havan in that. Nothing happens from zich allein. There's a barrier that showers of chesed, and there are people that are doing things. The zustel to the nail and with the hat, no, we can sich dingen. But my feeling today is, it meant as es kommt von sich allein, to see such a Kiddush Hashem ongoing. First, I want to Pesach b'choy dachsanya to thank the Beis Medrash. Especially Ashikoyach to each and every one of you for coming. It's a great cover, it's a great schus, and we hope to continue this covered. Simcha Deutsch is one of the most Ketraya people that we have. I want to thank him very much. And Achrein Chaviv is Lazabarach Bol. There are no words for me to say how much koiches and effort and domim tarti mashma and everything he puts in to make this year such an outstanding, astonishing Kiddush Hashem. The Baruch Hashem should help all the shutfim to have hatzlacha and bracha, and we should continue the shir in Shalayim Abnuya, a good gesund zoma to you all.
Of course, the biggest yashikoyach of all goes to Rav Smith for working week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, to prepare the shiurim and deliver them to Tuv Tam V'das. So big yashikoyach to Rav Smith and much hatzlacha for the future. Yashikoyach to everyone for coming all year and in the chazak the shiurim. The summer shiurim Be'ez Hashem start next week, next Monday, a week from tomorrow, July 2nd. Over here, 3 nights a week, in Williamsburg and Puppa, and in Boston and Flatbush. Boston and Flatbush, 9 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Over here, we have same 1 o'clock share, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And at night, 9:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And in Williamsburg, also 9:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There'll be a seeking of the share in a few minutes. If Kanani ben Akash, Emma Rotzaka, the Shbochel, the Zakis, and Sisera Figure Hibram, Tarmidish, and Emma, the Nerch Hofes, and Man Tzidkoi, Yagdol Perviade. Also, Rabbi say every year, this time of the year, the Beis Medrash makes an appeal for the wonderful air conditioning that we enjoy all the time here in Shul. It costs many thousands of dollars per month to pay the electric bill. Rabbi Melech Klitnik, the Askin is standing by the door in the lobby. Please help us Medrash for the appeal for the Tzos Electric. Okay. Rav Zev Smith Sunday morning share will resume Sunday Ches Elul. Sunday Ches Elul. See you then. Giving a dish.
Yeah, yeah.
Giving a lot.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, sure. 906, red number.
Where is it and when?
64.
Where is it? What time is it here? Where's the time? Watch your head.
Freeze, I don't know. Freeze.
Rabbi Smith will be giving a shiur Sunday morning during the summer in the country in Freeze Bungalow Colony, Monticello, 9:15 a.m.
It's available on
Do shiluach hashika here on the phone 718-906-6449.
Press 2.
Press 2.
Live?
Oh, it's on call.
Live and archive.
Which one is it?
Even?
What was the phone number? 66449.
What time?
449. Or is it 718?
I sit in my house and listen, huh? You going to be the country?
Oh, I'll be some weekends.
We have a place.
This is the last two Anybody know where Fleet's Bungalow is? Huh? He doesn't know.
Huh? He doesn't know where it is? What that mean?
I never heard of the place. It's very top. I don't know exactly. Know someone to sell.
Who wants to hear? Once again, the phone number for Rabbi Smith shiurim during the summer is 718-906-6449. Same Kalashon number, most of it except the last two numbers are 49.
Press 2, he says.
Press 2 for archives. For live, like any live shiur, you press first pound and then you listen for Kinyan Halacha, whatever it's called. Sikkim. Sikkim of today's shiur, please find your seats.
Which road?
And we'll do the Sikkim.
Upcoming after the summer. I wonder what it's saying, just 'cause it's still live. Just a short summary learned today by Hashem. There are two types of muktzeh. There's the klal, klisha malachta le'issa, which is a keli, even a car. It's a klisha malachta le'issa. You're allowed to move l'tzara gufay mekayim. You're allowed to sit in a car even if you move it. You're allowed to move a hammer, l'tzara mekayim. But kli, but something that's not a kli, machmas gufay, eitzim, ravonim, tzreirais, afa, is totally muktzeh. There's no het l'tzara gufay mekayim because it's not a kli. The only redeeming fact is when you miyachid it, when you designate it for use, then it becomes a keli. So if you designate a stone to hold the door open or to keep your page down, that's fine. Twigs leave on a table is a problem because that's kli muktzeh machmas gufay. So it's not, there's no heter l'tzarech mekayme. The heter is that you're doing it kalach hayad, you're tilting the table, tilting on that side, is mutter l'tzarech davar mutter. Shvuas branches are not muktzeh, even they fell down, you have to put it back. because that would be a muktzeh of gufay that you meyachid it, l'noya bayis, and you could pick it up and put it back. Cut flowers are not muktzeh, you meyachid it. If it's still blooming, you should not move it, and certainly not put into water, because that would be causing it to grow. Stam adding water to a flower pot, a vase is also because terchi yisera, but when the flowers are opening, you shouldn't move it at all. Rain, water is not muktzeh. It's not a noiled, and it's functional, and it's not muktzeh. We said touching a tree is not a shtamshus, and even though it's muktzeh, but it's not tiltal muktzeh, negia on muktzeh is mutter. Grass is a machloikis gedolei apoiskim, and as we came out today, it could be that all agree in a city that grass is functionless, grass is muktzeh, unless it's meyuchad liyeshiva, you sit in the backyards, you sit on it, but grass in a city is probably muktzeh l'choladeyis, a place that there are cows or animals that graze on the grass. It's not muktzeh, l'halacha. Picking up an item which moves the grass depends on what type of grass it is. If it's muktzeh, you shouldn't pick up the item, unless of course it's not a psik ratio, you'll be moving the grass. Smelling, growing flowers, a rose bush, hadassim, is mutal halacha. A flower pot that you meyachid l'noya bayis is not muktzeh. Pets today is a big machlokes hapoiskim. The halacha is to be machmir. Pets, yichud does not help. Certainly cows or chickens that are not pets are definitely muktzeh. Parakeet, the halacha should not be moved, and the cage is also muktzeh. A fish tank, we saw, Rav Shlomo Zalman is noit to lahakil. Most poskim are machmir. A tail of an animal, it seems, is not considered the guf of the animal, and that will be mutter. Tzarachi in the Bialacha says maybe that's mutter. Pet food, all agree, is not muktzeh. The seeing eye dog, we should treat as muktzeh. Some are mekel. The leash is mutter l'choladeis, and children that collect frogs, salamanders, should be told that Shabbos is Shabbos, they shouldn't move it. And shiluach hakan, it should not be done on Shabbos. Yes, sir.
Shekaya, Shem Egan Shir, like you big Shekaya to Smith for this year, all this year for the past 24 years or so. Slacha bracha weiter. Gesunden Sommer.
Amen.